and I went over the car and I broke my back. I broke my pelvis in three places. I mean, I literally almost got killed. I want to see what you can do. And so he goes, Lauren, stand up over there. And he says, do some more martial arts on Lauren. And that's why I had to get killed in King of the Kickboxers. My character was supposed to be in the ending of the movie, and so they killed me. They had to kill me off.
Okay.
And that's when they added the Johnny Cage versus Scorpion fight and the Reptile versus Liu Kang fight. You know, I felt like I had died and went to heaven somehow. I was working with the director of Enter the Dragon.
We have Keith Cooke here. I was so looking forward to this. Welcome.
Me too. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, you don't make many interviews, do you?
Um, you know, I've been doing probably maybe one a month, but some of them are probably for fairly obscure organizations and stuff that might not reach you.
Okay.
Because a lot of times it's just somebody sends me an email and says, "Hey, I have a podcast. Would you be willing to come on?" And I'm always willing to do it. So I go on podcasts that sometimes don't have a very big viewership, you know.
But that's
And
great.
so yeah. So anyway, yeah, I do quite a few of them actually now.
Okay. So I haven't seen any in
Okay.
my region here. We come from the Czech Republic, obviously, you know, because you'll be coming to our event in September. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yes, I'm really excited to visit the Czech Republic.
So I would like to introduce you to our Czech audience because many of these people may not know you yet, uh,
Mhm.
which is a shame, I think, because I've been following you since late 90s, I guess, when I
Okay.
first saw you in The King of the Kickboxers, but we
Oh,
will
okay.
come to that. But you had also a very successful competition career, martial arts, in martial
Right.
arts. So
Hmm.
could you tell us something about that? Like, who is Keith Cooke?
Uh, yeah, you know, I was a I was a Bruce Lee fan as a kid. You know, I experienced getting bullied and got beat up a couple times, and you know, I really wanted to learn how to defend myself. I even got my hands on a book on karate and started trying to learn the moves from a book before I actually got into a class. But I wanted to learn kung fu because I thought that's what Bruce Lee did, and so I thought I had to learn kung fu. And I started at a with a kung fu master named Roger Tung from Seattle. I was from, I grew up in Seattle, Washington. Ended up seeing him in a demonstration, and he was from China originally. He had an accent. He was Chinese. I thought, wow, this guy reminds me of Bruce Lee. And so anyway, I ended up signing up as a kid there. I was about 12 or 13 at the time,
Excuse me.
and
So what year was that?
1973.
Okay.
Yeah, and just got really into it. I mean, I had never felt so connected to something in my whole life before. I think, you know, I know like ADHD or attention deficit hadn't been really talked about much when I was a kid.
Sure.
And, you know, I've always felt like it was the first time I really started paying attention to something when I got into the martial arts. And the martial arts is so, you know, you have to feel it, and it's so you know, in your face kind of a thing for me. I think I just fell in love with it, you know. I practiced every day. Whether I made it to the studio or not, I would practice at home if I couldn't go. But I wanted to go every day. And it was a very unique place for that time because uh, my instructor was a black belt in Taekwondo, but he was also, learned Kung Fu from when he was a young kid. He was born in Shanghai. His family eventually moved to Hong Kong and then to Bangkok. And in Bangkok, oddly enough, he was still, I think he was in junior high school, or, he was a teenager, and he started taking Taekwondo uh, in Bangkok, and eventually earned his black belt there. And then his family moved to the United States, or he moved to the United States and went to high school in Seattle, and then went to the University of Washington. And that's where I met him. And it was good because he didn't try to mix it all together. He had Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he taught Taekwondo.
Mhm.
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, it was the Kung Fu. And so it was
Doing
very
both.
odd. Back then, I remember his sign on the martial arts school said Kung Fu, Karate, Tai Chi. And you didn't see that too often back in those days. And by karate, he meant, and he eventually got his black belt in Japanese karate too. I forget which style it was, but he had a good diverse background in the martial arts, and he taught a very Taekwondo style of kicking, and with the Kung Fu, it was a really good, I thought it was a very good mix for back in those days. And when I met Taekwondo guys along the way, I could always, you know, mix into their classes very easily. Or if somebody was doing Kung Fu or Wushu, I could mix into those classes very easily.
So this
But
is where your versatility in martial arts come from, because uh, you have obviously you've had great kicks, like Taekwondo style kicks, but then you competed in kung fu forms and weapons later
yes.
on.
Yeah. But I started out going to the regular karate tournaments in my local area. That's what I started doing almost immediately. I think after about 3 months of experience, I started competing and got really into it. And for those days, this was before the UFC or anything. And so, you know, I thought I was a fighter. I thought I was a fighter. I thought I was trying to be a fighter. And was kind of naive and green to what it really was. And I remember when the Gracies first started, when I first became aware of them, I was like, wow, look at those guys beating, strikers, and I was like, wow, how's this happening, And I wrestled in high school to try to enhance my martial arts, and I was fighting in tournaments. And then I always felt like when I was in close, I always felt like, and so um, when I had an opportunity, when I was going to the University of Washington, they had a boxing club there, and I joined the boxing club. And other than boxing with my friends, who everybody does, when you're growing up and you put on gloves and you try to box with your friends, I didn't have any experience in boxing. And that was when I think I really started, that was kind of a wake up call to me that I really had a lot to learn, and I loved what I learned in boxing because just in my school, if there was something that was lacking, I think it was the in close stuff and learning how to block and move your head and stuff like that. And in boxing, you have to learn that right away. The good thing though is in my school was learning to maneuver, and kind of like a lot of footwork and movement. I did have that, but anyway, competed more and more. And my goal was to become a rated fighter. The old Karate Illustrated had the ratings. They had regional ratings and national ratings. And my first goal was to become rated as a black belt fighter. And I did achieve that. And around, I think, 1979 or 1980, I started getting rated as a fighter. And then in 1980, I got that opportunity to go to China and train in Wushu. And I
Mhm.
thought these guys would be tremendous fighters, and it turned out they were They didn't even fight. They just trained in forms. And I didn't know that because I had seen them when they went on tour. Jet Li was a part of that tour when they came and demonstrated
All
in the
right.
US. When I saw them, I was like, oh man, these guys are so good. I was so blown away, and I thought these guys must be tremendous fighters. Even though they weren't demonstrating fighting, they were doing forms. I was like, the speed and the power and the jumping and the spinning, and I was just blown away. And my instructor was one of the first ones to take groups of people to China to train. And so I went with his first group back in 1980 and went to Nanjing, which was formerly known as Nanking. And each province in China had a team. Like they had the most famous one was the Beijing Wushu team,
Hmm.
um, where Donnie Yen actually, we went to the same, went at the same time in 1980 with the same group, and then he went to train in Beijing
Okay.
with his mom, and I stayed in Nanking and trained.
Oh, this
But
is interesting.
originally we were there together, and we went to the national championships in Fuchao back in 1980, the national championships for wushu. And we both demonstrated there. I was demonstrating kind of like fighting and stuff with my instructor, and he was demonstrating. He used to do the mantis,
Hmm.
and he was very fast, even back in those days, and very sharp. And it was tremendous experience though training in China because I hadn't trained with professional athletes before who basically in China they get selected like other athletes who excel at something, and they eat, sleep, everything martial arts, and they're in the dorms with the divers and the swimmers and every other sport. And we lived right on a sports complex in a house that was especially for guest peoples who were guests of the athletic programs there and trained with those athletes. And they would train, they had a 3 hour training session in the morning and a 3 hour training session in the afternoon. And they had a break and they would take a nap, and that's what we did. We got on schedule with them. And it was a really good learning experience of seeing how people who do this for a living train. And it stuck with me. When I went home, I started training in the morning and the evenings. And whether I was going to school or working, I would do that in between my training sessions.
Well, but
And so
it
it was
paid
a great,
off because you
yeah.
quickly became a champion. And also in 1985, you became martial artist of the year, black belt martial artist of
Oh,
the
well,
year.
I got competitor of the year in the Black Belt Hall of Fame in
Okay.
1985. In 1983, because the two main publications back then was Black Belt magazine. Well, there was also Karate Illustrated, and then there was Inside Kung Fu. And
Hmm.
Inside Kung Fu and I'm sorry, Black Belt magazine had the main Hall of Fames. And in 1983, I got competitor of the year in the Inside Kung Fu Hall of Fame. And I also got their competitor of the year in 1986. So yeah, I got out there and I think, applied myself to the forms training, and my training still for fighting was, even though it really helped me, boxing really helped me become a better fighter because I became a lot less afraid of getting hit, and I
Hmm.
got a lot better at defense and blocking and stuff like that. A lot of the blocks that I did, I learned, and I think this was an interesting point because I didn't like reaching out and blocking, because in boxing, that's not a good idea to reach out and stuff like that. In point fighting, you really have to demonstrate your blocks a lot more clearly than in boxing. You can put your glove right on your head and box. And a lot of times in point fighting, if you do that kind of a block, even if you block, the person gets the point.
Hmm.
Especially with back fists. I had more back fists scored on me in point fighting than any other technique, I think it was because a lot of times I like to like shoulder roll a block like this. I would do like a boxing block and they would give him a point anyway. And it was kind of frustrating, but you know, I still competed a lot, you know, and I just think it's such a great experience, you know, and in point fighting and as well as forms, you win and you lose and you keep going, you know, and I loved that experience. I went to a lot of tournaments and I was very lucky that I got a sponsor after a while because, you know, people, you know, you don't make money. It's not really a professional sport. It wasn't a professional sport back then. And I've had a lot of respect for the way the Europeans do it. You know, I mean, it seems like karate and kickboxing and stuff like that as amateur sports there is much more developed than it is in the United States. You
Think
know,
so?
like in particular think that kickboxing is much more like I went over for the Waka World Championships in 1987.
Right.
I actually won the weapons and the forms there.
Excuse me,
And
was that the Munich
yes, it was in
tournament?
Munich. It
Oh,
was in Munich.
okay.
And I was
So
so blown away by the
that was the one when Jean Fournette won the open forms.
he did, yes. And we were teammates actually. Not there because I think he was representing Canada there.
Right.
Um, and I was representing the United States, but we were teammates. We had the same sponsor. And so we traveled all around the world together and I know John very well. We're very good friends.
It's
We
awesome.
don't see each other anymore, but we were very good friends during the competition years. And we used to work out together. And when he was in LA, he used to look me up and train together. And he used to put on a tournament I think it was in Montreal. And I went to that tournament a couple of times. But we were good friends and we went to the training camps. Our team actually had Billy Blanks was on our team and Steve Nasty Anderson was on our team. And
But that tournament in Munich must have been awesome. That was very
oh my
big.
God. That's what I was going to say. I was so blown away. And it was like, and I heard uh, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, talking about going to the Waco Championships when he was younger and how to him that was his Olympic Games
Hmm.
because there was no Olympic Games for his sport.
Right.
And that was the way it felt to me too. Like they had the podium with the flag and they raise your flag and play your national anthem. And that tournament I think there was 33 teams from 33 different countries that had full teams competing there. I don't know what they considered a full team, but multiple members of
Excuse
teams.
me, but those were different times. It's not like that anymore,
Okay.
especially not in forms and weapons. I can tell you, but I've heard about that one, and it must have been truly a unique
Well, I
experience.
had always seen like for football, you know, like what we
Yeah.
call soccer in America,
Yes.
when I watched it on TV and the cheering and the chanting of the fans,
Yeah.
and that was what it was like in Munich that time. And it was standing room only for the finals, and it was cheering. I'd never seen anything like it in my life, and still haven't.
Yeah. So we talked about the competition years, but when did the transition to movies happen?
I was already like studying acting at a place in Hollywood. I had moved down from Seattle to Los Angeles in 1985 and wanted to somehow get into the business. And I think for martial artists, as I guess you've probably noticed, so many people in the martial arts want to get into the movies because a lot of our heroes or the people that we looked up to were in the movies,
Right.
like Bruce Lee, like Chuck Norris, like Jean-Claude Van Damme. Um, the Jackie Chan, a lot of the great martial artists that were our heroes. And so I always had that in the back of my mind too. I was thinking, I really want to get I want to figure out if I can make movies or not. And so, not knowing anything about how to do that, really, I moved down to Los Angeles. My teacher had moved down here and he said, Keith, why don't you come down here and work for me in the school? And I need help. And so he was taking those tours to China and he was busy and he needed to go out of town a lot. And so I stayed there and watched the school and tried to figure out how I could get into the business. And uh, and so I was trying to call other martial artists that I knew were in the business and see if they knew anyone or I remember I called James Liu. Do you know who James Liu is?
Of course, yes.
Yeah. And he tried to help me. He gave me the name of this guy who took headshots.
Oh
I
yeah.
just remember the guy's name was Bosco Wu, and he was a photographer. And I went and got my headshots taken by him, and he recommended a a person who was an extra casting director, and you could be an extra and stuff. So I started once in a while being an extra on a movie, and you know, it was interesting. And then I had heard that Ernie Reyes Jr. was learning acting at this particular acting studio in Hollywood. And so I went and inquired there, and he was starting to do well. I don't know if this was before Ninja Turtles, but maybe it was when he was doing the television series that he did for a while. And it's so funny, I just bumped into him at the sushi bar last night, Ernie Reyes Jr.
Oh really? Is
Just
he
last
doing
night.
well
Yeah.
now? Because he had
He
this.
looks great. He looks great. And I'm going to get together with him because we used to compete against each other when he was little kid,
With
you know?
With Ernie,
Yeah,
with
Ernie
Ernie
Reyes
Jr.
Jr., Ernie Reyes Sr. They used to compete in forums as a pair, and they were
Okay.
really good. And Ernie Ernie Sr. has this mega martial arts, empire that he started, and I always had so much respect for those guys, as martial artists,
But these guys
and
started this whole tricking craze back in the
yeah, pretty
90s.
much. I mean, it didn't even have that name yet. It didn't have
No,
tricking, but I think you could say they were definitely the inspiration for tricking,
of course.
and uh, so many great martial artists came out of there and good fighters too. I like it when places fight, not just forms and fighting, like, and there were some really good fighters that came out of their studio.
Well,
And George Chung,
Cynthia
George
and George
Chung,
Chunk, yes. Both of them
George
were on the
could
team.
fight too. He was a good fighter. And so it's just it's really great when I bump into somebody from the past like that. And he's living close by me now. We live in the same neighborhood, same area. And that's a really popular sushi bar it's not even 5 minutes from my house. And so it's really cool. That's the second time I've seen him there, and we're definitely going to get together. So that's really cool. But I forget what subject we were getting onto, but
Well, he was starting to learn acting, and
yeah, yeah. Okay. So um, I ended up going there, and it turned out they were teaching martial arts at this acting studio because a lot of acting studios, they have some kind of movement uh, instruction as part of because in acting, your body is your instrument. A lot of times they say, and it's your way of communicating. So a lot of actors, they either get into stage fighting, studying stage fighting of some kind, sword fighting, or dance is another thing that they get into. But so Ernie Reyes Jr. and Ernie Reyes Sr. were teaching, it turns out they were teaching martial arts there, and they had got really busy, and so they weren't teaching there anymore. And so the guy hired me. And so I was able to do what they did, which is trade out your tuition at the studio to teach an acting class. And so I taught an acting, I mean, not an acting class, a martial arts class there. I think I taught there a couple classes a week, and I traded that for my tuition, and I was up there almost every day, you know, and that was a really cool experience. And actually, the way I got my Screen Actors Guild SAG card was for a commercial that I auditioned for that Ernie Reyes Sr. also auditioned for. It was a huge cattle call of martial artists there, and the two of us ended up getting that job. And it was a really good job. It was for Gatorade. It was a commercial for Gatorade.
Oh, can you see that ad somewhere?
No, you know, that's such a great question. I haven't ever tried to look it up.
Oh, I will.
Maybe I could find it because it played during the World Series,
Well,
you know, the baseball World Series
but then it
here.
must be
They
somewhere.
didn't play it after that, but I still made like $15,000 off that back in that must have been around 1986 or 1987.
Of that advertisement.
Or maybe, yeah, I think it was around that time. It was around, you know, I can't remember, but it was around that time. It was definitely 87, 88, something like that. And that was a great job because I got my SAG card and made money, you know. So,
Well,
and I got to work with Ernie. So that was
okay. So your first record at IMDb is the Picasso Trigger. And
Yeah.
I tried to look you up in that movie, and I found
Okay.
you, but there's no fighting.
What?
There's no fighting. There's no fight scene, is it?
There's no fighting in the movie for me. Isn't that funny? Um, when I got that part, I don't think they were looking for somebody to be the sidekick of that guy Bruce Penhall, that champion motorcycle rider, who
Okay.
was my partner in crime in the movie. And yeah, oddly enough, there was no martial arts for that part, and I didn't try to like convince them that they needed to have me do martial arts in it. I was just happy to have a role in a movie. And I tell that story sometimes, a really funny story, because I got it through that acting studio. That's how I got that part. Was a guy in my acting class was dating the daughter of the director of that movie, and he was also the producer of that movie. And he made those Playboy Bunny, like secret agent movies back then.
This movie is crazy, really.
And we got to go to Hawaii, and it turns out that Dennis Alexio was in that movie, and
Yes.
so
And he has a fight scene in there.
yeah. It's funny. Anyway, funny.
Well,
Funny how
okay,
things
so
happen.
that was the first one, and then
Yeah.
but the next one was it? That was not China O'Brien yet, or was it?
I think it was China O'Brien was the next actual acting role that I have. So it was my second project, and probably somewhere in between I did that commercial,
Okay.
I think. I'm pretty sure I did that in between. Yeah. So it's interesting.
So what was it like, China O'Brien 1 and 2 with Cynthia Rothrock and with Richard Norton?
Well, it was another, I felt like I had died and went to heaven somehow. I was working with the director of Enter the Dragon,
Oh,
which was
right.
my favorite movie, is still really one of my favorite movies of all time is Enter the Dragon,
So
you know,
Robert Clouse was the director of
of China O'Brien.
both
Yes.
of them?
Yes, because we
Rick.
shot both of them at the same time.
Okay.
And so I don't know did you do an interview with Cynthia yet?
Not yet, but she'll
Okay.
be coming.
She'll probably fill you in on that too. But
Okay.
one day I came home from training, and I lived in the West Los Angeles area at the time, and the phone rings. Hello? yeah, hi. I'm looking for Keith Cooke. This is Fred Weintraub. And I was like, who? Fred Weintraub? I go, you mean the director of Enter the Dragon? I mean, the producer of Enter the Dragon? And he goes, yes. And I couldn't believe it. I thought it must be a joke or something. And it was really him. And he had gotten my name from Inside Kung Fu magazine and was looking to cast that part of Dakota. And he wanted me to come over to his office. And I was all sweaty from my workout. And I said, I'll take a shower and I'll be right over. He goes, no, I want you to come over right now, right now. And so I went over in my workout stuff, just sweaty, just went within 10 minutes, I was in his office. And I was sitting there with his daughter, Sandy, and Fred Weintraub. And he goes, so you do martial arts? And I stood up. I was like, yeah, you want to see some? I was so pumped up. I was just ready, you know. And we just talked, and that was our first meeting, and it went through. I had several other meetings with them, and then eventually got that role. Yeah.
Well, he praised you as actually as I saw the documentary about China O'Brien.
Right.
It's like 40 minutes. And it was very, very interesting. And
Okay.
there's some nice footage also behind the scenes footage and interviews also with yourself. So
He really tried to jumpstart my career. He was really trying to get me going as the next guy, you know. And so he gave me a lot of help and put me in a lot of things. And he even had a script written for me at Warner Brothers. And it ended up not getting picked up. It was around the time of a Showdown in Little Tokyo with Brandon Lee had just come out. And they said, if that movie does well, we'll go ahead and give your movie a green light. And then that movie, they said it didn't do well enough. And
Showdown in Little Tokyo didn't do well.
yeah, that's what they said. That's the excuse they said for not doing our movie.
Well, it's a good movie though.
Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think initially, though, the box office wasn't what they had hoped.
Okay.
The box office success wasn't what they had imagined or hoped. And so they kind of saw it as a movie in the same category, and so they didn't want to do it. And so they just put that on the shelf. And it was a good screenplay, you know. I really liked it. It was called Beyond the Shield. It was about a guy who's in the police academy, and he's half Korean and half white, and his mom has a Korean market, and she gets murdered. And then he's trying to, and the police aren't doing anything about the murder. And so he decides to start investigating it on his own. And then he gets kicked out of the police academy because he's investigating this crime and he's not supposed to. And it was a good story.
So you were supposed to be the lead.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a pity, actually. Yeah. Well, China O'Brien 1 and 2, both my favorite movies. Yeah. But then Mortal Kombat came in 1995.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, there was a few things in between. You know, I did King of the Kickboxers.
Oh, right. That was 1990, right? That was 90.
Yeah.
So let's start with that one. Yeah, because that's probably the first movie I saw you in. And that like 90 seconds when you when you kick out all these thugs, that was crazy. I mean, like that literally made me want to kick like you.
Oh.
And I know I was not alone because I have many friends. It came out on VHS in early 90s. That was just the breaking point in my country, the Velvet Revolution in 89. So, and now all those action movies started to pop up, and this was brand new, fresh movie. So there was one of the first video cassettes that I got my hands on. martial art, in terms of martial arts movies, and it stuck with me, and still one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that movie, and it's hard to, make these low budget movies and have them come out well. And I think the Hong Kong movie industry is really good at that. They have somehow managed to get the system down so you get a good quality movie. And I was really blessed in that movie to have Corey Ewan direct that fight scene. And they have an action director come in and direct the action, and then they have a drama director for the acting scenes. And so they have a different system, and it works very well. And I didn't realize at the time, being as green as I was, how lucky I was to be working with Corey Ewan, and apparently that was the only fight scene that he directed in that movie. And he knew what he wanted, and when he came on the set, you could tell it was like the level of respect from the crew was just, it changed. The energy on the set changed, and everybody became like soldiers, and it got really quiet. And I like the way he worked too, because I think he knew that he didn't know me well enough yet, and he would just say, "Hey Keith, these guys are gonna come at you here. What would you do? And we want you to kick. We want you to kick." And so he would ask me for something, and then he would ask me, "Can you do this here?" And I would say, "Oh yeah, I can do that." Like holding my foot out and doing that. He just asked me, "Can you do that?" And I said, sure, I can do that. And the triple kick at the end,
Yes.
kicking the guy 3 times in the chest. That
There was no wire work for that kick, for that specific kick.
there's no wire work in that movie that I saw. No wire work, but they did have guys from the Jackie Chan stunt team there, and they hired people from Thailand as stuntmen. And so an interesting story is, in that fight, when we came to that last kick, that triple kick on the chest, they first had a Thai stuntman in there. And really for that kick, it's a hard kick to do without having cuts in it, and then making it look strong, because somebody has to stand there for the first 2, and then you send them on the third one. And so they have to be, and the Thai guy couldn't stand there for the first 2, because I have to try to kick hard, because otherwise it's going to look weak, right? And the camera angle is really right from the side, where you can tell if it's a hit or not, and it's fairly close too. And the first time, so the Jackie Chan, one of the guys from the Jackie Chan stunt team goes, I'll do it. And we got it on the first take,
Oh, really?
on his take. Yeah. He just stood there. It was just a different level of professionalism, I would say, and experience, that what made it able for this guy to do it. He saw it, knew exactly what had to be done, and did it,
I was going to ask, how many takes did you need?
Yeah, and
you just needed the right guy.
We tried like 3 or 4 times with that first guy, and then this other guy says, "I got it," and of course he did it. So, yeah, I mean, the guys that are responding to you in a fight, the stunt guys are really important. Like the reactions, and to stay alive, even if somebody else is the one getting hit at that time, to not just stand there and stuff. And it's really important to the success of a fight. Yeah. So,
well, I wished I could see more of you in that movie, but still, this one scene is really on the top of my list up to this date. So Was it did you meet Billy Blanks for the first time and Lauren Avedon in that movie, or did you know each other from?
It was the first time. The first time I met Lauren Avedon was at the audition for King of the Kickboxers, and again, like back in those days when I went on an audition, I'd be really pumped up, and when I went into the waiting room for the audition, they have a little waiting room outside, and I saw Don Wilson in there, and I didn't know Don Wilson at the time, but I think he was up for. I think he was up for the same role as I was up for, but he might have been up for a different role in the movie. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was that one though. But when I went in there, Lauren Avedon was actually in the room, and then NG, the producer who owns Seasonal Films, was there, and I can't remember if Keith Strandberg was there, the writer. But anyway, we did some of the lines for the audition, the acting, and then NG goes, "I want to see some fighting. I want to see what you can do." And so he goes, "Lauren, stand up over there." And he says, "Do some more martial arts on Lauren." And to this day, I feel sorry for him because I did not want to lose, and I wanted to look good, and I just went on. I went off on him, and I knew it was I was kicking him on the legs and shin kicks right in front of his nose, and like I was just like going out, and after about 10 or 15 seconds, I looked over at NG, and he was laughing, and
because Lauren was already his star. He starred in No Retreat, No Surrender 2 and 3.
Yeah. I didn't know that though, and so
You didn't.
I didn't care either. I didn't care. Yeah, and so anyway, that was cool. And I knew Billy before that, Billy Blanks, because
From the competition years, yeah.
we were on team together. Yeah, I had actually done a seminar at his school way back in the day, and been to many training camps, been all over the world with him before that. So yeah, we knew each other well.
Okay. So
And plus,
that's
he
nice.
was in that fighting scene in the alley in China O'Brien too.
Oh yeah,
Um, and I called him, and Chris Casamassa is also in that fight scene, and
that's
I
right.
was the one who basically cast that fight scene because we didn't have a casting director. We didn't even have a director for that fight scene. We didn't have a stunt coordinator. Basically, I had to do all those things, and I had to choreograph the fight. I had to find who I wanted to fight with. And one of the guys was a guy named David Brooks from my acting class who had done my martial arts class in there. And he was a really good actor, and I knew he could handle it. And then Chris Casamassa and Billy Blanks, who I called them both, and they were both like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Well, I
And we
totally
didn't have a
forgot about that
permit.
one. Yes.
What's that?
I totally forgot about that one. Yes, you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
in that scene together, of course.
And that was fun. We had no permit. We just went to an alley in Beverly Hills and shot that fight scene with just a camera operator, and Fred Weintraub's daughter was the director, Sandy Weintraub. She was there, and uh and that was it. That was the whole crew. So it's guerrilla filmmaking at its best. So
So, King of the Kickboxers was shot in Thailand, right?
yes, yes.
I heard the stories about Billy Blanks losing a lot of weight, a lot of muscle during the shooting because of the heat and because of the overall conditions over there in the jungle. Uh, yeah, but
I think maybe he didn't like the food that much. Uh,
okay. So
you
you had
know,
no problems
I
there.
don't know if I don't know if okay, yeah, and um, but yeah, we did that thing where he had to jump up his special
Oh
technique,
yes.
with boom with his legs like that, and That is so cool. I actually love working with Billy. I hope
Mhm.
we get to do another. And I've seen him recently I saw him in Colorado last year, and it was really good to see him. And I hope we get to work together again. That would be fantastic.
That'd be awesome. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the next big thing was Mortal Kombat, or was there something else in between?
I did right from I did a movie called Born to Ride where John Stamos was the star. And that was for Fred Weintraub produced that movie. That's how I got that. And that's why I had to get killed in King of the Kickboxers. My character was supposed to be in the ending of the movie.
Hmm.
Then my start time for that next movie, which I signed the contract for, I had to leave, and so they killed me. They had to kill me off
Okay.
in King of the Kickboxers. That's how things happen, and I don't think they were very happy about that either. The King of the Kickboxers people, and I'm really to this day sorry that that happened because that I don't know, would have been cool to do a sequel or something like that. But anyway, Born to Ride was a World War II. We shot in Yugoslavia, so I went straight from Thailand. I flew to Yugoslavia to Zagreb, and we shot there. We shot all around in Yugoslavia, and it was beautiful. I had a really good time. And we were riding 1940s vintage Harley Davidsons
Hmm.
for the movie because it was supposed to be World War II. And it was a great experience, not a very good movie, and didn't do well. And but fun doing a period piece. Love riding motorcycles.
Well, I was
And
about to ask because it's I now count three movies where you were with motorbikes. Then it's in the Picasso Trigger. You were on a motorbike also, I believe.
yes, yeah. And then China O'Brien.
Ryan O'Brien, of course, and
Yeah.
now this one. So
Yeah,
what is
Born to
it?
Ride.
What is it about you and motorbikes?
I think it's that whole Steve McQueen kind of mystique,
Hmm.
around motorcycles, and I understand it. I rode a motorcycle my whole, since I was about 13 years old until I almost got killed when about it was about 13 years ago, and I got a guy came out of a driveway. I was going about 50, and there was nothing I could do. He pulled out like really fast, and I knew I was going to go over the car. And I went over the car and I broke my back. I broke my pelvis in three places. I mean, I literally almost got killed.
Oh,
Had a really bad concussion. I broke six ribs, um, broke my pelvis in three places. It was bad. But thank God I was in really good shape. The doctor said when people have a pelvic break like I had, usually they get killed because there's internal injuries,
okay.
and I made sure I rolled for the first one. I saw I didn't want to hit the car. I launched off the bike. The bike went over the car too. And I made sure I tucked my head on the first one, but then just boom, boom, boom down the street. And so I haven't been on a motorcycle since, but I still love motorcycles, man. I miss it. I miss riding motorcycles. Um, anyway,
Okay. So the movie Born to Ride, you said, uh,
yeah,
was not really a success.
yeah,
So the next one was the one I'm the whole time
yeah.
aiming to. How did
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat happen? I mean, I read somewhere that you aspired for the role of Liu Kang, but
Yes. I auditioned for that role, and obviously Robin got it. I had several callbacks. I think I got down to the last few people, but Robin got it. And I had known Robin since like in 1982, and we trained together quite a bit. And anyway, so I didn't audition for anything else on the movie, and they went and made the movie. And after they tested it, the audience was asking for, after they finished the movie and did test screenings, the audience was asking for more action. And that's when they added the Johnny Cage versus Scorpion fight and the Reptile versus Liu Kang fight. And I think I told you about it in that video that I shot from my roof, where you can see the Van Nuys Airport from my roof.
Right.
That's where we shot. They built sets in a big airplane hangar at the Van Nuys Airport, which is right here in Los Angeles. And I also mentioned I did a Wu-Tang Clan video there. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff gets shot there because it's an older airport now, and mostly smaller planes and private planes land there. They don't have like big commercial planes landing there. And so a lot of the hangars get rented out and stuff. And they built the sets for those two fights there, and it was amazing. When I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe those sets. And Chris Casamassa was Scorpion, and I've known him for years too, through martial arts competition, and we trained with the same guy in Los Angeles, Master Steve Fisher down here. And a lot of people have trained with Steve. But that's another fight that I'm really proud of, the one with Robin Shu, the Liu Kang versus Reptile fight. And I think it was, again, very well crafted. Not only has Robin been in a lot of stuff, and he worked in Hong Kong a lot, so he had that whole Hong Kong filmmaking experience for action and martial arts movies. We had a director who I think is Paul Anderson, who is a craftsman, and knew exactly, had a strong vision for what he wanted in the fight. And we had this beautiful set, and we had 6 days. I've never had that luxury before. And so we had more rehearsal time, and I'm working with Robin, who we knew each other well, had worked out together a lot, trusted each other. We spoke about that earlier, how that I think it gives you confidence when you're going at it. You can go for it. And we had the time, and then you have that beautiful set, which is inspiring. I think when you're like, if you're acting in front of a green screen or something like that, that's not as inspiring as working in a set where it's lit like that and you feel like you're actually there. I think it just adds to your own commitment to making this thing, great, and so I just feel lucky to be a part of that. And it still holds up till today, I think, that fight. Yeah.
Well, it does. I mean, visually, the whole movie, not just this scene, but the whole movie
Yes.
is something out of this world. I mean, for 1995, that was, it's beautiful. When I first saw it, I was immediately hooked.
Yeah. Did you see it in a theater?
No, I don't even think it ran in a theater back then. It went straight to VHS, and I rented it dozens of times, the movie.
Yeah.
You couldn't even buy it. You just went to rental store and rented it for a day or.
Was it a DVD or was it?
No, it was
VHS?
VHS tape.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
I still have it. Actually, I have it here. I have both of them.
Oh, that's so cool.
Also, the second one.
Yeah.
This is, the first one you talked about just now, and I didn't know about the set and that also the other scene, memorable scene with Chris Casamassa was also shot in the same location. That's
I
really
mean,
something.
those sets were built right next door to each other. They were built at the same time, right next door to each other.
Wow.
Yeah.